Hello friends, David here. Welcome back to this YouTube channel. How do you know if a company is being traded at a fair price, overvalued or undervalued price? One of the indicators we use is PE ratio, also known as price to earnings ratio. Price here refers to how much the company is being sold for, and then earnings here refers to how much earnings the company is making. So essentially what this means is that how much the company is worth is in relative to the multiples of its earnings. So for example, if your PE ratio is 10, this means that the company is selling for 10 times its earning. And therefore you can imagine that the higher the PE, the more expensive the stock is. So in short, PE ratio measures how much the company is selling for in relative to its earnings. So to illustrate further, let's have a look at the formula. As you can see from the formula, the PE ratio is equal to the share price of the company divided by the earnings per share, also known as EPS. The share price here represents the price tag of the company, and of course you can look up the share price from the internet. But in this case here, I will show you how do we derive the share price. You derive the share price by dividing the market cap, which is the valuation of the company, by the number of shares. For example, if the market cap of the company is 100,000 and there's a total of 5,000 shares, and therefore 100,000 divided by 5,000, you derive at 20. $20 is the share price of the company. Next, you have EPS, earnings per share. EPS is derived by taking the net income and divide it by the total number of shares. What this means is that for every share you own, how much income is being generated. The net income is the net profit that the company has after deducting all the expenses from the revenue. Say for example, if your company sells coffee and makes 100,000 in revenue, also known as sales, and after deducting the cost of goods, in this case here the cost of the coffee bean, and the cost of hiring people and renting a shop, captured as SG&A or operating expense, deducting the depreciation of the coffee machine value, tax and interest, and so forth, after all this deduction, the company is left with 20,000. And this 20,000 is the net income. And since there are 5,000 shares being issued, you take 20,000, divide by 5,000 shares, and therefore your earnings per share is 4. So moving back to the formula, your share price is $20 and your EPS is 4. So what this means is that you take 20 divided by 4, which is equal to 5, and therefore your PE ratio is 5. Ultimately, what this means is that this company is being sold for 5 times its earnings. The share price here is being reflected as how much the company is being sold for per units of share, and the EPS here is reflecting as earnings per share. And therefore what you have is a measurement of the company's price in relation to the earnings that it makes. Another term that you may hear is called the EBITDA multiple. EBITDA stands for earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. The concept here is the same, except that in the case of PE ratio, which uses a multiple of earnings per share, in the case of EBITDA multiple, as the name implies, it uses a multiples of EBITDA. And instead of using the share price, we use the market cap, which still captures the price tag of the company. And instead of EPS, which is based on net income, we use EBITDA instead. EBITDA is income without deducting interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. And therefore essentially EBITDA means net income plus tax, plus interest, plus depreciation and amortization. Meaning to say, instead of net income, which is the balance of profit after deducting all the expenses, EBITDA does not deduct some of these expenses like tax, like interest, depreciation and amortization. Why analysts use EBITDA is because it more accurately reflects the profit trend of the company. Because sometimes net income would factor in other external factors which is unique to the company but not applicable to another company. And therefore, using EBITDA, it provides a more accurate comparison between the companies. Does it mean that a company with low PE ratio is always better? Not necessarily, because a company that is growing aggressively will invest in its R&D, and therefore this translates to a very low earnings, and therefore what you will see is a crazy high PE ratio or even a negative PE ratio. However, this does not make it a bad investment. Take Amazon for example. At one point in 2013, it has a PE ratio of 3,000. Does it make it a bad investment? No. If you forgo investing in it because of the high PE ratio, then essentially 8 years down the road, you are missing out a 15x return of investment. PE ratio is only one of the indicators. You need other components to tell the full picture. So I hope you learned something today. Today is a short video. my work is quite busy, I hope you understand. In the next video, I'm going to analyze about PayPal. As always, invest safe, take care, I love you guys.